Good morning, students. Now we are going to discuss on the words and data names in Cobol programming language from Unit 1. So, you people must know very clearly about what are the Cobol words and how to use these Cobol words within Cobol programming language. So, the words are very important as we have some two basic types of words as user defined Cobol words and then reserved Cobol words. So you must know the difference between user defined Cobol words and reserved Cobol words and the usage of those words. And the next one, which is about data names. Data names are nothing but whatever the identifiers that you're going to include within your Cobol program. All those identifiers we used to call it as an data names. So without data names, we wouldn't be able to perform any process in Cobol program. So the data names must be used appropriately as per the procedure and rules that we have in including data names within your Cobol program. So this is going to be the introduction for Cobol words. Cobol words can be formed using the following characters. As we already discussed, we have numeric characters 0 to 9, alphabetic characters capital A to Z or small a to Z, and then hyphen symbol. So using the below listed characters, you could define the Cobol words that you're going to use within your program. So we have some more rules that to be followed in using these Cobol words. The first one is about a word cannot begin or end with a hyphen. So whenever that you're going to include a different word, you must not include with a hyphen or you must not end it with a hyphen. The second one, a word can have a maximum of 30 characters. That's going to be the limit that they have set over here. But the two, which is going to be an compiler dependent one. And surely one of the characters must be letter. So though you could include numeric values along with your Cobol words, but one of the character, surely it must be a letter. Some of the compilers had included some additional restrictions that the first character must be a letter, and except hyphen you must not use any other special characters within your Cobol words. So these things are a very important rule that we have to follow. And next one, we have some examples for what are the valid words and invalid words that we have and that we have to use in a program. For example, emp hyphen sal hyphen p. So there it won't be any problem because each and every word which is being included and connected with hyphen, so we could use it. So at the same time, suppose before the emp, suppose you are going to include an hyphen, then it seems to be an a wrong Cobol word. And then the second example, between the word total and mark, you have a blank space. So you must not include any blank spaces within your Cobol words. So that seems to be an important rule. There are some two types of Cobol words. The first word, which is going to be an user defined, and second one, which is going to be an reserved word. So user defined, so the Cobol programmer or the coder, so those who ever want to define their own Cobol words, so those words we used to call it as an user defined words. And then second one, which is about reserved word, which comes along with the programming language, or programming environment. So those reserved words are reserved for some specific purposes, and that could be used only for that specific purposes alone, and that must not be used for some other purposes. So those words we used to call it as an reserved words. So reserved words are used in COBOL statements and entries for specific purposes alone. So here they have listed some specific reserved words that we used to use frequently: add, subtract, divide, multiply. So these are some arithmetic verbs that we have, and then if and perform. So these are some of the conditional verbs that we have. So to learn some complete set of reserved words that we use in a global programming language, you have to refer the manual which has been specified for this purpose. So suppose if any attempt by the programmer to declare the reserved words for some other purposes, surely which is going to result in error during compilation of your program. So you have to be very clear with how to use these global words as user defined words and as reserved words. Next one is about a data name. A data name which is going to be act like a reference or a placeholder or a storage places to store some values and process that particular value. So it is going to reference to the storage space, the memory where you could store the actual value and process. So these values takes part in the operation when that particular data name is used in the procedure division. And then the identifier generally, which means a single data name or the data name are qualified. So whatever the user defined data name that we are going to use, so all those data names, in short, we used to call it as an identifiers. Sometimes it will be indexed or subscripted. So the data names are only one form of identifiers, and data name must be a user defined word, and it must not be a reserved word. And we have some examples as how we have to use the data names. So the valid data names are net hyphen salary, which is going to be a valid data names, and then total hyphen mark, which is going to be an valid data names. And then we have some more words like compute and multiplied. Actually these things are reserved words, so these words must not be used as data names. So these are some of the examples that we have related to usage of data names in your COBOL programming environment. So students, so these are some of the key points that we have related to COBOL words and data names. So we will have to be very clear that COBOL words, which consist of some two important branches as user defined words and reserved words, where user defined words, in the sense whatever the user of the program who is going to describe or who is going to include the name in the program, so those names we used to call it as in COBOL words, where reserved words are reserved for some specific purposes and that could be used only for that specific purposes alone. And then to differentiate the valid COBOL word and invalid COBOL word, we discussed some examples. So you have to stick on to those examples as how we have to use. And then you have to be very clear. We could use only some three things as numeric characters, alphabet characters, and hyphen symbol alone. And other than hyphen symbol, you must not include any special characters. And then while including data names, you must stick on to some of the rules. For example, the data names must not start with a hyphen, and then the data names must always start with an alphabet character, and with that you could include some numeric characters. So these are some of the key points of this particular topic. So students, with this I'm going to stop this session. Thank you. Thank you for listening.